And today we're going to be talking about the Scorpio New Moon that is on November 20th. And it's going to be in the nakshatra Jyestha. And what I really want us to talk about is rebranding, because this new moon has a lot to do with rebranding, especially with Mercury being retrograde, and also how to do shadow work around self-worth. Okay, my incense just failed, so hold on. All right, so that's what we're going to be talking about. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and light this incense right here. All right. Now where's the letter at? I just had it. All right, so while I'm talking, okay, I am Chantalee, and this is the Sanctuary of the Divine Feminine. And what I like to do is I like to blend business and astrology and tarot together, along with the Divine Feminine energy, so us women can be more empowered. We can be more knowledgeable in how to use our God-given strengths, our God-given energies, and manifest and bring to life the things that we want. Let me. Now I know. Hold on. I got another lighter. Here we go. Now we're in business. Now we're in business. Light this up. Light it up. Light it up. All right. So I'm going to be telling you like the three ways you can know. The 3 ways you can know that you need to rebrand, and the 3 ways that you can know that it's time to do some shadow work around self-worth. All right. So what's going to be really cool during this new moon is that the light feminine meets the dark feminine. And when I say that, I mean the moon, which represents the light feminine energy, is going to be conjunct Lilith, which represents the dark feminine energy. And I believe it's a part of us in this new moon. It was going to represent a part of us, a part of the dark feminine energy that needs to be healed, so we can become more successful, so we can let that successful energy out. I'm trying to stick this incense in this hole and it's not trying to go. But I feel like that's all about too. And it's not even all about it's so much has to do with success when it comes to this new moon, because we also have the sun with the moon, and so we have the light feminine energy, the healing part of us, the nurturing part of us, with the sun, which represents our masculine energy, male or female. The sun in your chart represents your masculine energy. And so I just think that new moons and full moons are powerful in that way, because it brings together your feminine and your masculine energy. All right, here we go. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. And okay, so my intention for us, like I said, is to really focus on what areas of our self-worth we need to do shadow work around, if we need to rebrand, what this new moon in Scorpio has for us. Okay, that's what I really want to focus on. So I want to tell you a little story about rebranding and how I got into branding in the first place. Everything started off with me knowing that I wanted to help people really understand who they were, okay? And I've always had like a really strong desire to know who I was, like who am I underneath, because I always felt like I was just way different than everybody else. And I always felt like if you knew who you were completely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, had a real strong confidence in who you were, then the world will basically unlock for you, it will be open for you. And I can't remember not feeling that way. But I do remember a lot of struggles and just a very long journey and just in locking exactly who I was. And that was just always really, um, it was always a challenge for me. And it was always something I was always looking for to learn more about myself in any way that I could. Like I was taking quizzes, trying to learn about psychology, learn about, astrology, tarot, all those things. So I started doing readings. I started doing tarot, then I started doing astrology, and then I started doing it for other people on a consistent basis. Then I learned that career readings was something I was really good at. So people started coming to me for career readings a lot. And then those were so good that people were like, well, now I know what direction I should go in with my career. I also know what type of business I should start. So, how can I start this brand? How can I start this brand? So, I had already started a couple businesses because I've been an entrepreneur since 2009. So, I already started a couple businesses and brands on my own. So, I was like, well, this is just another step in knowing who you are. And then the brand is making sure you know who you are so you can express who you are to your audience. And so I got deeper into branding. And um, earlier this year, and towards the end of last year and earlier this year, I went through a lot of transformation and a lot of changes. And I, I still love branding, and I'm going to be talking more about it. But I felt like I was trying to push the branding part of my business more than the spiritual part, and things just weren't aligned because I always just ended up being more heavy on the spiritual side anyway. So I feel like it was creating confusion with my audience. So I just decided to rebrand and change my brand to Sanctuary of the Divine Feminine from um, sacred branding, like it was. And I just feel like it Sanctuary of the Divine Feminine embodies more of who I am, and I'm able to just talk and be free and do what I want under this brand because it's just fully me. Because me, I have Lilith in my first house. Like I do Vedic astrology, right? So in Vedic astrology, you have divisional charts, and it's a whole bunch of different charts. And how about in just about every chart I have in Vedic astrology, I have Lilith in my first house. Okay. So I'm very much dark feminine, divine feminine energy. So I just want to embody that more and more, share what I'm learning more and more with my audience, and just give everything I can. So that's why rebranding is so important, and that's why I want to share it with you today. Okay, so I already kind of talked about a little bit of the astrology, and I kind of just want to go ahead and get right into um, I just want to get right into how do you know if you need to do some shadow work around self worth. Okay, so the full moon the super full moon was in Taurus. Okay, this last one. And Taurus represents self worth, and it represents our resources, our resources, right? And across from Taurus on the same axis is Scorpio, and that's where we're going to be doing experiencing this new moon. And Scorpio gets down to the root of things. Scorpio gets down to the bottom of things. Scorpio deals with psychological trauma, and it gets down to the bottom of what is stopping you from moving forward, because it also has a lot to do with self sabotage. Okay, so we're getting to the shadow of self worth when we deal with Scorpio. Okay, so how do you know if you need to do some shadow work around self worth? Something else that I've been wanting to talk about, I'll probably be talking about it in the next couple weeks, is how Taurus and self-worth are connected to ourselves as entrepreneurs, as brands. Our self-worth is very much connected to ourselves. So doing the shadow work around self-worth during this new moon, especially with Mercury being retrograde. Mercury is a businessman. Mercury represents business. So with Mercury being retrograde, we can really rethink some things about our business. So this is the perfect time to think about rebranding. So I'm focusing on self-worth right now. So the how do you know? It's if you start to feel like you need to hide yourself in any way. If you feel like you need to hide yourself in any way from yourself, from situations, from a person, from groups of people, then there's a cue that you need to do some work around self-worth. You need to do some shadow work around self-worth, okay? The second thing is if you feel drained in any way. Oh, let me go back. I want to give an example. So let's say you say, well, I would make a video, but I don't like the way my voice sounds. Or I would uh, join this group of people or do this activity, but I don't like my clothes, or I don't like my weight, or, I don't like, anything. Guilt, shame, um, low confidence, low self esteem, all that affects your self worth. Anything that makes you feel like you need to shrink, even people that are in your environment, any energy, anything, any person, inside or outside of you, that feels like you need to shrink or hide yourself in any way. If you're experiencing that, then there's a cue that you need to do some shadow work on self worth. Another thing is if you feel drained, not because you've been working hard or not for any health reasons, but you just feel just drained for some reason, then there's another cue that you need to work on your self worth. Okay? Because that is a cue that if you don't have self worth, then it's a very strong possibility that it's setting boundaries when it comes to how much people ask of you, um, when it comes to how much you protect yourself from other people's energy, what you will accept, what you don't accept, how hard you work, what you're trying to prove to other people. Wait, did that go under the umbrella? Yeah, sometimes we can get burnt out because we are trying to prove something to ourselves and we're trying to prove something to other people, whatever it could be. We can get burnt out because we're doing too much because of trying to prove something. But if you know about self-worth, then you know you don't have to prove anything to anyone, because your self-worth is your self-worth, whether you have a job or don't have a job, whether you um it doesn't matter. You being you being who you are, you being your unique self, you breathing in and out, you blinking, whatever, you just being who you are, being who God made you, sitting here just looking at the wall, you're worthy. You can have self-worth just from doing that. So you don't have to prove anything to anybody. You just are. You just are worthy of whatever you feel like you're worthy of. But you just are worthy. Your self-worth should be at 100%. And no matter what, you don't have to prove anything to anybody. There's nothing to prove. All we have to do is just be. Okay. So you could feel drained, and that's a cue that you need to do shadow work around your self-worth. Hey, Andrea. We're going to do, so I'm glad Andrea is here because I can talk about real quick sidebar that tomorrow we're going to go live, and we're also going to be talking about the new moon, me and her, and we're going to be doing on our little, not little, why I say little? I take that back, on our podcast channel, and it's called Sacred Strategy, and we're going to be going live together. And we're going to be talking about the new moon in Scorpio. I do tarot and astrology and brand strategy, and she does AI and human design and business strategy and things like that. And so we like to bounce things off of each other and talk about, you know, all kinds of stuff together. And so yeah, and so tomorrow we'll be doing that, and it's going to be really exciting. So I just want to say that. All right. So that was 1 and 2. So if you are drained, you need to do some work, some shadow work around self-worth. If you what was the first thing? I said if you're drained, and so I'm just going to skip to the last thing. The last number 3 is if you are attracting situations and people and relationships that aren't in alignment with who you actually are, who you really are, innately, energetically, you know, you're just feeling out of alignment. Like I was saying with my business, when I was leading with brand strategy instead of the spiritual side of my business, I felt like everything was out of alignment. So if you just feel out of alignment in your environment, with situations, the people you're around, it's a strong cue that you need to do some shadow work around self-worth, because your outside is supposed to match your inside if with self-worth. So those are 3 ways to know if you need to do some shadow work around self-worth. So I'm going to put timestamps. I usually don't, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it this time. And so sometimes we can think of shadow work as something that's like scary, something deep. Like it, you can make it what you want to make it, but it's simple as it's as simple as being clear. First, you have to have clarity. You know, what is the issue I'm experiencing right now? We're talking about self-worth. You know, so right now you're saying, okay, my self-worth is not who I want it to be, what I want it to be. Okay, so now you need to take some time and get extremely crystal clear on what your life would look like in so many details, in so many feelings, what your life would look like if your self-esteem was where you wanted it to be. You know, what would you look like? Who would you be around? What would you be doing every day? um what would you be wearing? How would you be talking? How would you be feeling? You know, your emotions are a strong part of that, you know. So just get really clear on what your life would look like if your self-esteem was where you wanted it to be. Okay, and then you kind of like work your way backwards and fill in any gaps that are missing. Okay, because you I don't want to start, you know, getting really deep, but doing shadow work is not that difficult. But that's just a basic way of doing it. Journal, 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 journal. Okay, that's a big part of my shadow work is journaling. So, if you're here and you're enjoying the video so far, make sure you like it so you can get more. Make sure you subscribe so you can get more moon services and more content that I'm going to be putting out. And make sure you comment self-worth in the comments. All right. So now, how do you know if you need to rebrand? 3 ways to know if you need to rebrand. First, it is almost the same things. If you need to rebrand, you might be people might be calling you like I have this opportunity and that opportunity for you and your business, but then you're like, well, those opportunities, I appreciate those opportunities, but those opportunities aren't in alignment with what I even do or what I want to do. Something just doesn't feel right about it. It's a possibility you might need to rebrand. Or if you keep attracting the wrong audiences or clients that really aren't in alignment with what you do or what you want to do, you're not really vibing with them, or maybe you're not getting enough clients, enough people. If your brand or business starts to feel heavy, or you start to feel like it's misaligned, just like your life might feel misaligned. If you're misaligned, if your self-worth is not hitting like it's supposed to, if your brand needs if you need to rebrand, then like you're just gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna do this, but I don't have any spark. I don't, it doesn't light me up. It's not really what I really want to do. It's time to rebrand, because your brand is a part of you, a big part of you, you know, and you want to make sure that you have some type of joy when you're doing what you do, because if you don't, then it's going to translate to your audience, and your audience is going to feel that, and they're not going to want to like, share, I mean, to what is it, your audience is supposed to want to know you, like you, and trust you. They're not going to really know you, like you, and trust you if you have some type of invisible wall in front of you and them, because your brand is not a true reflection of who you are. You need to rebrand. Okay. So if you're attracting the wrong opportunities and people, if you are drained when it comes to your business, if you're like I say, if you're not connecting with your audience, those are reasons. Let me look at my notes. Those are reasons why you need to rebrand, because I don't want to miss anything. Another thing. Oh, this was good. I'm glad I wrote that down. Thank you, Shiny. All right, I'm glad I wrote that down. So, if you are, this is going back to if you need to, how you know if you need to do shadow work around your self worth. And this has a lot to do with this new moon being in Scorpio. Now, let me tell you something. Okay, now I'm a Scorpio. My sun is in Scorpio, along with a lot of other stuff, but I don't need you to know my chart like that. So, my sun is in Scorpio, and I for years I heard people say, "Well, Scorpios are jealous. Scorpios are jealous." Scorpio is connected with jealousy, but most of the time, people are jealous of Scorpios. Okay, and that's where the jealous energy comes from. Okay, but at any time in your life, all people, anyone can become jealous. But jealousy is an energy that could come up during this new moon because it's in Scorpio. So if you see someone else, another woman or someone else, and they're successful and it triggers you in some way, don't ignore it, don't push it down, acknowledge it, don't act on it, not in a negative way, but just acknowledge it and just know that you're experiencing jealousy because it's something in you that feels like you can't do the same thing that they did when you can. Okay, you just have to tap into your own uniqueness, your own you-ness. Okay, you have to tap into that, and so that's another cue that you need to do some shadow work around self-worth. All right, let me look at these notes. Tracking the wrong clients, I got that. Yeah. Okay, so I got all that. So now I wrote some things that you can say to yourself, that you can think about if you're experiencing these things. So if you're avoiding visibility, if you're avoiding being seen, because you need to do some shadow work around your self-worth, then you can ask yourself, where am I hiding and where should I be leading? Okay? Where should I be leading? This section of Scorpio is very strong in leadership and Jyestha. Like I said, I do sidereal astrology. I do Vedic astrology. So the nakshatra in Scorpio that this new moon is in is Jyestha, and it has a lot to do with leadership. Okay, but you have to transform to get there. You have to do your shadow work to get there. You're not going to get there unless you face some dark truths about yourself. Okay, and if you are attracting the wrong relationships and situations, then you can ask yourself, Where am I accepting more? Where am I accepting more than I can handle? Okay. And if you feel emotionally triggered when someone else is successful, you can ask yourself, what does her success activate in me that I am afraid to claim? Now, that's going to really help you. That's going to help you get down to the truth of some things, okay? And just shadow work is so powerful. Getting down to the bottom of things and just having that awareness and what's going on in you is going to open so many doors and so many opportunities. So for rebranding, if your external life or brand no longer matches your internal identity, then you can ask, does my brand reflect who I am, who I'm becoming, or who I used to be? And I very specifically had to ask myself. Because if you're going through some type of change, some type of transformation, and Scorpio is all about death and rebirth, then and your brand is an expression of who you are, then you're definitely going to have to make some adjustments to your brand. Now, you might not need to do a full rebrand. Okay. Now, a full rebrand is that you changing your name, you change your images, you changing everything. Okay. You might not need to do a full rebrand, but you do need to look at your brand, go through it, look at your purpose, look at your vision, look at your mission, look at your values. Okay. Look at your message and make sure that it's in alignment with who you are right now. Okay, because I always tell people when I help them with their brand, I want to make sure that it is as much of you as possible, because if your brand truly reflects who you are, you don't have to sit and think what was my message again, what is my purpose again. You just know, because it's coming straight from your heart. Okay, so if it's not doing that, and if you kind of feel like say it when you say your elevator pitch, or when you say your message online or whatever, and it's not, hitting like, this is exactly me, this is exactly what I want to say, you definitely need to look at rebranding, at least partially. Okay. All right. So two, if you feel resistance, burnout, boredom, with the brand or business that you built, then you can ask yourself, what area of my life or brand feels heavy, draining, dull, or misaligned? You have to get really clear on that. Okay. And the last thing is, if you are attracting the wrong clients, partners, partnerships, or opportunities, you can ask yourself, what energetic version of myself is my current brand communicating? What energetic version of myself is my current brand communicating? And you really want the answer to be the most aligned version of yourself. Okay. So now I want to ask you some questions. Now, with these questions, you can get your pen and your paper, you can get your journal, and I'm going to pull some cards around these questions for the Divine Feminine Collective. And if something hits you, if something was like, well, yeah, that is kind of what I'm feeling or what I'm thinking. This is going to be a general reading, so it's not. This is general. So if something hits you, something resonates with you, then cool. But as I'm saying the questions, you can write them down and answer them for yourself. So this is interactive. All right. So the first question you can ask yourself is, what self-worth wound is ready to surface under this new moon? Okay. And the second question is, what is Lilith trying to teach me about my power, boundaries, and voice? Now, it's really important to connect to this Lilith energy while it's in Scorpio because it's about to move to Sagittarius really soon. Okay? So Lilith has been in Scorpio for a while, trying to teach us lessons around healing our divine feminine energy and just accepting the shadow self, accepting our shadow feminine, accepting our dark feminine self, and letting her, don't not hiding her, not suppressing her, letting her come to the light, letting her come to the surface, all that. Lilith has been trying to teach us. She's been a Scorpio, so we need to make sure we get every lesson that she's been trying to teach us now before she moves on to Sagittarius, and we get all that goodness from her. Okay. All right. So the third question is, what um, old identity, habit, or role must die for my worth to rise? Again, this is all about Scorpio. Okay, letting the old go so you can accept the new. Okay, so we have to really get clear on that. Number 4, what is the clearest sign that it's time to rebrand my life or business? All right. And the last is, what aligned direction or identity is calling me forward after this new moon? All right. So I feel like answering one question at a time. Sometimes I do cards the way it comes to me that day. All right. So which cards am I going to start with? I'm going to start with my Hocus Pocus cards. So I'm going to do one question at a time. What self-worth wound is ready to surface under the new moon? Let's see. This is for the Divine Collective of Divine Feminine Energy. What self-worth wound is ready to surface under this new moon? Okay, Empress. Okay, Empress. Now that's Venus energy. So Venus is overall the divine feminine energy overall. Now I started doing something while I'm talking about it. I started doing something a little different, and that is offering readings that help you kind of clearly identify what your specific divine feminine path is. And that is because you can find out. And if you already know your chart, you can do this on your own. But since I'm a professional, I can really dig in deep and help you get even more clarity. If you look at where your moon is, then you and its placements and everything around it, then you can get clarity on what your light feminine energy looks. The archetype of your light divine feminine energy. If you know where your Lilith is in your chart, then you can get a good idea of what your dark feminine energy looks like, the archetype of that. And if you know where your Venus is, then you can get a good clue on what your overall divine feminine energy is. So you can do that on your own. And also I do readings so I can help you identify your divine feminine path. So you can just get clarity on just walking and living and just being your true divine, unique feminine self. Okay. Let's get some more clarity around what self-worth wounds want to come up around this new moon. Okay, so it looks like we're letting go. Okay, so I got the Empress clarified by the Ace of Swords and the reverse Ace of Pentacles and the Six of Swords. Okay, so it's a lot of money money things, money issues, money stuff. Our self-worth that's connected with money. And Taurus and Scorpio, they are related to money because Taurus represents money and Scorpio represents the money and resources that we share with other people. So yeah, scarcity could come up. Any wounds around money, not having enough, not making enough, um, anything like that, not being clear on how you want to make money, anything. This is moving past. With the Six of Swords, it's a lot of moving past that type of energy. So wounds around money and self-worth, those are things that we need to work on during this full moon. I mean, during this new moon in Scorpio, okay? All right, so let's answer this next question. I should have known that was going to come up. Okay, so what is Lilith trying to teach me about my power, boundaries, and voice? All right. Let's start with these this time. What is Lilith trying to teach us? The divine, collective divine feminine energy. What is Lilith trying to teach us about our divine power, voice, Ace of Wands? Okay. So I should have known that too. Five of Swords. Well, let me clarify with something else. Because well, the Five of Wands has a lot to do with fire, passion, drive. Lilith is about like just raw energy. So that's how this connected with this. Okay, Chris, tell me more about this Ace of Wands and what Lilith is trying to teach us this new moon. Tell me more about this Ace of Wands. Empress is coming out again. Divine feminine energy. And this also could be creativity because the wands are also connected to that. Seven of lightning. Okay. Seven of lightning is seven of swords. Queen of potions is the Queen of Cups. So I feel like this has a lot to do with not being honest with ourselves. Not allowing ourselves to be that divine feminine energy. Not allowing ourselves to create what we want to create because of self-worth issues, because we're not accepting our full power, because we're not connected. And that's the main thing. We're not connected to our dark feminine because we can create from that. Also, Queen of Cups reverse can be codependent type of energy. And Lilith is not codependent. Lilith is very independent. Let me tell you the story that you probably already know about Lilith and the story of the Garden of Eden. Tell me more about what Lilith is trying to tell us. Lilith is independent because Adam tried to rule over her in the Garden of Eden. And she was like, why are you trying to rule over me? God made us at the same time, out of the same stuff. You're not over me. What are you doing? You know, I want to do some things too. And Adam was like, no, you my wife. I'm the man. You supposed to do what I say. I got to rule. I got to be in charge. And Lilith was like, look, no disrespect. I understand that that's what you want to do, but that's not how I am. That's not how I roll. I'm going to have to go. Okay? Because this is just, I can't do nothing with what you're trying to do. So God had to give him Eve because Lilith was like, what is this? You dominate me, you rule over me stuff. I gotta be me. She wasn't even trying to be rebellious, and she wasn't trying to change anything. If Adam would have accepted her and let her be who she was and understood her, that she wasn't trying to, cause a ruckus or whatever, she would have stayed there with him. But he couldn't accept that. So she had to honor herself and get on down. Tell us more about what Lilith is trying to tell us. Expect a miracle. Have faith that your prayers have been heard and are being answered. Okay. All right. Unconditional love. Love your... Okay. Now, this is making me remember something. This new moon is debilitated. So that means that this new moon is in, when the new moon or any moon, any phase of the moon is in Scorpio, it's debilitated. Okay. And when the moon, which represents your mother, is debilitated, issues with your mother could come up. If you were born with the moon in Scorpio, then it's possible that you could have you could have had issues with your mother at some point in your life. Okay. So issues with your mom might come up during this new moon, and we might have to look at any wounds around our mothers and how that could have affected our dark feminine energy during this new moon. Okay, because these are two cards that are both mother type energy. This is Mary Magdalene, this is Mother Mary, around the Queen of Cups reverse, which is, like I was saying, that codependent type energy. Yeah, it's very much about that. So what Lilith is trying to tell us that we need to work on is creating, and also with the Seven of Swords here, create some type of strategy to get out whatever you're doing that is like a passion project, or whatever you're doing has to do with something that you're creating. You want to create some type of strategy to get it out there. And you don't want to depend on anyone else to do that. You don't want to be like, wait for this or wait for that, or use an excuse that somebody else didn't do this, so I can't do that. With that codependent energy there, you got to let go of any victim mindset that will stop you from expressing your creativity, your raw energy, your raw power. Okay. And also look at how your mother or even mother figures in your life could have negatively affected your self-worth. All right. So that's that. That is that. And we're going to go to the next question. And the next question that we can ask ourselves, whether you journal it or you get something from me pulling these cards, is what is the clearest sign? No, 3. What old identity, habit, or role must die for my worth to rise? What time is it? 1:44. Okay, doing good. Okay. Okay. What old identity, habit, or role must die for my self-worth to rise? Okay, the sun, but it's reversed. So the sun card is usually good um no matter where it is, but the sun is in Scorpio. So the sun is in Scorpio and it's with retrograde Mercury, which is business. So I feel like that also that has something to do with hiding. Okay. It has something to do with hiding. So let's go a little deeper. Let's go a little deeper. Tell me more about the sun reverse and what old habit needs to die. Identity. What old identity needs to die? Oh no. Hold on. Okay. Ace of Wands again. Five of Swords. Knight of Pentacles. So for me, this is mental conflicts, mental challenges that keep you hiding, not being able to I can see it, but I'm trying to say it. Let me clarify some more. But it's like not being able to see something through. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes we get ideas and with okay, so it's Mercury retrograde telling us to go back and those things that you put down, those things that you dropped, it's time to pick them back up and it's time to see it through. Okay? Don't let all the ways that you might have to change as a person, the things that you have to change in your head, the mindsets that you have to change, the way that your life might change by seeing this idea through, this business idea, this whatever that you have. You have to be able to see it through and be patient with it, and that's how we're going to get success. So the old ideas and habits and identities that we're going to have to let go is self-sabotage. This is self-sabotage, and this is so Scorpio. This is so Scorpio. Just like I already said. I already told y'all. Scorpio will self-sabotage. Okay? Because it's almost like internal, not almost, it is. It's internal violence against yourself. Okay? Because Scorpio is ruled by Mars. That's violence. And K2 or the south node of the moon, which is K2 can be cutting, okay? And you're doing all this, and you have all that fire on the inside, and it's almost like you're attacking yourself. So what you can attack yourself and do some type of self-sabotage against yourself before you can even allow what you're trying to do to grow and become what it needs to be. That's what needs to die. That's the old part of you that needs to die. Okay, you sabotaging yourself before your success becomes what it could be. Tell me more. Tell me more about the what's old that needs to die. Mm-hmm. Know you know what to do. Trust your inner wisdom and take appropriate action without delay. Self-sabotage, procrastination. Okay. Inner goddess. Venus keep Venus keeps showing up. Awaken the goddess within you through dance, self-care, and appreciating your divinity. Okay, so that's the old identity. Like self-sabotage, not being patient and seeing your creativity through to the end, sabotaging yourself by not knowing and remembering and just being the divine feminine that you are, embodying that. You don't have to do anything, you just have to be. Okay. And I think sometimes that that might be some reasons why we might sabotage ourselves, is because we're trying to overthink things. Okay, too much, just too much. All right, and we think that things could be too hard. um we might make excuses and say we stopped something or we sabotage ourselves because of something else, but the truth is you didn't think that you could do it. Most of the time you just didn't think you could do it. Okay, so see things through. Know who you are. Know that you can see it through, and when you see it through, it's going to be successful because it's going to be one of your creations. Okay, it's what the divine feminine created. All right, now we are on to 4. What is the clearest sign that it's time to rebrand your life or your business? What is the clearest sign? All right. Whoop. Stock card. I'm gonna take that, but I'm gonna also keep shuffling. Hold on. What's the clearest sign that we need to rebrand our life or our business? Oh, oh, shoot, y'all. What y'all going through? mm. If you're not making money, if you if you are not coming out as a star of your own life, if you are not coming out as a star in your own business, if you're not moving forward, if you're stuck, if you feel like something is holding you back karmically, if you just feel like if something is holding you back, if you're I'm gonna pull some more cards. But if you can't move forward with the Chariot and you're not making money and you feel left out and you feel like you're not even a part of your own business or your brand, and you feel like, yeah, I'm gonna just say you're not making money with the 5 of Pumpkins, okay, which is Pentacles. So let me know, tell me some more about how do we know if we need to rebrand our life or our brands. That was pretty deep. If you know what this, if you, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. My birthday was November 6th. And like I said, the Scorpio has a lot to do with people with the evil eye. That's why Jyestha, this nakshatra that the new moon is going to be inside of Scorpio, has a lot to do with protection and talismans, because it has so much to do with the evil eye and jealousy. People looking at you and being jealous of you. And people can be jealous of you for the smallest of reasons that aren't even really reasons. Okay? And what I noticed was um I had a lot more eyes on me than usual because, everybody was like, happy birthday, happy birthday. This year, I felt more than ever why it's so important to protect, because I'm usually not, unless I'm right here on YouTube, I'm not usually posting or anything. I definitely not on Facebook. Um, but it was people trying to contact me that hadn't contacted me in years, and just a lot of energy that I just hadn't been connecting with. And a lot of things happened after my birthday that was not but really out of energetically. A lot of things happened that are very not normal. Okay. So if you have experienced the evil eye, or especially from people that you have intimate relationships, that's another thing that Scorpio represents. People that you have intimate relationships with. That's not like co-workers. That's like friends. That's like family. That's people that are really close to you. Your husband or your wife or your life partner. If you have experienced any type of evil eye from someone like that, doing shadow work on just that situation is going to most likely change and transform you in some way, to where you're going to, after you have the clarity on just that specific situation or relationship, you're going to have to do some changing around your life. Okay. Tell me more about why we need to rebrand. Our lives or our businesses. Yeah. So you can have that. Slow and steady success. So you can have that slow and steady success. Okay. All right. And then we're going to the last question. Then I'm gonna let you go. Get my son from the bus stop. The last question is, what aligned direction or identity is calling me forward after this new moon? What aligned direction or identity is calling us forward this new moon? Being the star. You being the star. Okay? And I don't know if I got to say anything else, but I'm just going to do a little light clarification real fast, like. Tell me more about the star and what is calling us forward, what identity is calling us forward this new moon. Like I was saying, this new moon has so much to do with leadership, and like just like shining a light on what's holding you back. And it's going to take some transformation to become that star. It's going to take some honesty within yourself to become that star. But that's what Scorpio is all about, that transformation. Okay? Tell me more about the star and what's going to move us forward. There go the Empress again, getting deeper into the divine feminine energy, setting boundaries, being bold, not backing down. Okay? Remember that this Jyestha, this nakshatra Jyestha that the new moon is going to be in Scorpio, is facing your fears so you can get to the seat of power. Okay? And you see how she has this fire in her hand? She has the power in her hand. She just has to be bold enough to face the darkness, to face her fears, to face her wounds, her traumas that have been holding her back in the past. And if you can face them and you can change and transmute them, then you can get to the seat of power. You can hold the power in your hand. That is an awesome note to leave this on, because that was basically what I was trying to say the whole time. That was basically what I was trying to say the whole time. All right. So this is what I have for you. This is the live this today. I hope that your new moon is awesome. I hope that you can set the best intentions for yourself. I hope you can go back over those questions and journal them. And I'm probably going to put them in a community post so you can look back over them again. But make sure you really dig in and answer those questions for yourself so you can maximize this new moon energy in Scorpio for yourself. Again, remember I have the divine feminine path reading. If you want to know what the moon, Lilith, and Venus mean for your divine energy, and how you can know more about your unique divine feminine path that way, because I use tarot and I use astrology to look at your charts and really give you real clarity on the kind of divine feminine archetypes that you have. Okay, so you can embody who you really are. If you enjoyed this live, put self-worth or rebranding in the comments. If you know someone who could be going through some type of change or transformation in their life, and they might need to do some shadow work around self-worth, or they might need to rebrand their life or their business, you can share this live with them. Okay, and remember to subscribe so you can get more videos, so you can be a part of more moon services. And that is it. So I will talk to you next time.